Welcome, beloved awakened souls. Before the world begins its noise again, let us sit together in the presence of silence. Silence is not the absence of sound. It is the presence of everything that words cannot hold. It is where love breathes, where awareness listens, and where your soul finally remembers itself. Take a breath and listen, not to me, but to the quiet space between these words. That is where the truth lives. We live in an age of endless voices. Screens whisper, notifications scream, and even in our solitude, the mind keeps talking. But somewhere beneath all that noise, there is a quiet garden, a place inside you that has never been touched by chaos. That stillness has always been there. It is not something you must create, only something you must remember. Every ancient teaching, every spiritual master, every mystic has pointed to the same doorway, the one that opens when the mind becomes quiet. When thoughts slow down, you begin to see what has always been present. A vast, luminous awareness. It's like clouds parting to reveal the sun, not because the sun appeared, but because it was never gone. In silence, you are not a person trying to awaken. You are awareness itself, remembering that it was never asleep. That is why silence heals, because it dissolves the illusion of separation. Long before you learned to speak, your soul already knew a language. It wasn't made of words. It was made of presence. A child knows this language. A flower in sunlight speaks it. A bird resting on a branch hums it without sound. It is the language of being, of existing without needing to explain, of loving without needing to own. When you listen deeply, you begin to understand that silence was never empty. It was your mother tongue. Most people fear silence because in silence, all masks fall away. There is no persona to hide behind, no distraction to fill the space. Silence confronts you with yourself. It whispers, "Here you are, beyond your story." But that confrontation is grace, because only when you see what you are not, can you begin to touch what you truly are. Close your eyes for a moment. Listen not to the thought, but to the gap that comes after it fades. That gap, that space, is not nothingness. It is consciousness itself, the eternal presence that witnesses thought without becoming it. And in that space, you will find peace deeper than sleep, and love without condition.
Silence is not against sound. It is what allows sound to exist. Like the canvas holds the painting, silence holds every word, every emotion, every heartbeat. When you learn to listen beyond words, you begin to hear the universe breathing through you. That is what the mystics call the divine whisper. No matter what happens, noise, pain, joy, chaos, this silent presence never leaves you. It was there when you cried as a child. It was there when you fell in love. It is here right now. Listening through your eyes, the silence within you is not fragile. It is eternal. It is the soul of the universe, wearing your heartbeat as a disguise. Love does not shout. Love does not rush. Love waits and listens and breathes quietly. That is why silence and love are twins. Both arise from the same source, awareness. When you sit in silence long enough, you begin to feel the world differently. You start to see through the eyes of love, and suddenly, even pain becomes sacred. Silence heals not by fixing, but by revealing. In stillness, old emotions rise, grief, fear, anger. Let them. Don't resist them. They are just echoes asking to be loved. When you stop judging your inner storms, they turn into rain that nourishes your soul. Have you ever felt something deep inside that words could never express? That is your soul speaking, and its language is silence. It doesn't argue, it doesn't convince, it simply is. The soul doesn't need to speak loudly, because truth does not compete with noise. At some point, the journey no longer feels like a search, but a surrender. You stop trying to reach silence, and instead, you fall into it, like a leaf letting go of the wind. You stop resisting life's flow. Surrender is not defeat. It is returning home. It is when the small you finally trusts the vast intelligence that breathes galaxies. Every time you exhale completely, you practice surrender. You release the illusion of control, and life begins to move through you effortlessly. Silence teaches you this sacred art, the art of being carried. Even in the middle of movement, there is always stillness. Watch the ocean. Its waves dance endlessly, yet the depth below remains unmoved. You too have that depth. No matter what chaos swirls on the surface, the core of your being remains calm, untouched. That center is your true home, not in the noise of thoughts, but in the space between them. When you discover that center, you can walk through storms and not be broken, because the silence within you is greater than any sound outside you. Pain is not your enemy. It is a doorway, an invitation from life to look deeper. Every wound is a teacher. Every sorrow hides a seed of awakening. When you bring silence to your pain, it begins to change shape. It no longer asks, "Why me?" It begins to whisper, "What is this showing me?" In silence, pain becomes wisdom, tears become prayers, and your brokenness becomes a window through which the light enters. So the next time you feel shattered, remember, silence is not the absence of feeling. It is the womb of transformation. The greatest paradox is this: you will find what you seek only when you stop searching, because silence was never lost. It was always here, waiting behind your effort, beneath your wanting. When you finally stop grasping for peace, peace finds you. When you stop chasing love, love begins to breathe through you effortlessly. Silence is not an achievement. It is a remembering. You don't earn it, you awaken to it. When silence deepens enough, the boundary between you and the world dissolves. You realize the wind that touches your skin is not separate from your breath. The stars that shimmer above are not distant. They live in your eyes. This is not poetry. It is truth. Separation was only a thought. In the stillness of awareness, everything merges into one living presence. And you are that. That moment, you no longer pray to the divine. You pray as the divine. In the heart of silence, there is a hum, a vibration. Some call it OM. Others call it the music of the spheres. It is not heard by the ear, but felt by the soul. Every living thing vibrates with it. The trees, the rivers, the stars, and you. When you rest deeply enough, you begin to sense that hum in your chest, a quiet pulse that says, I am. I have always been. This is the soundless sound, the echo of eternity within your being. There comes a love that is not directed at someone or something. It simply is. You wake up and feel love flowing for no reason, not because of beauty, not because of kindness, but because existence itself is breathtaking. This is divine love, impersonal yet intimate, silent yet boundless. It does not cling, it does not demand. It simply radiates like sunlight that cannot help but shine. And the more silent you become, the more this love overflows. When you look into silence deeply enough, it begins to look back. You realize that you were never the observer. You were always the awareness observing itself. Like the sky watching clouds pass, you remain untouched by every story. This realization is freedom. It ends the dream of separation. And suddenly, every person you meet becomes a reflection of the same light, each carrying the same silent presence. You now recognize as your own. All your searching, all your questions, all your wandering was never about finding something new. It was about coming home to this simple, silent moment. The moment where breath happens on its own, where existence breathes you, and you need nothing more. Silence is home, and home was never far. It was only hidden behind the noise of becoming. Now you can rest, and now, beloved soul, let everything fall away. The voice, the music, even these words. Sit in the quiet. Feel the presence that remains when everything else is gone. That presence is you, infinite, unchanging, luminous. This is not the end. This is the beginning of true listening. The silence you touch tonight will speak to you for the rest of your life. Thank you for being here, for remembering the language of your soul. Until we meet again, stay silent, stay awake, stay in love.